Today I thought we might look at a set from the 1980s, and this one is the Sony ICF 6500W. It's released about 1982 and was the successor to the very well regarded ICF 5900W, an analog set that was released in the mid-70s and performed very well. So really this update is more about styling and but also the addition of an LCD frequency counter. In many other ways the sets are similar. You can see that Sony has employed some somewhat cheaper plastics as they've gone along to take some cost out. The front panel is dominated by the tuning dial, which is a good size, and it also moves the pointer on the analog slide rule. So the analog display changes like a blind as you change between ranges. You can see the different frequencies displayed there. The set covers from 3.9 to 28 megahertz across the 5 bands that it offers. So aside from FM and medium wave, we have 3 shortwave bands, and 3.9 is the lowest frequency, so the 90 meter band tropical range misses out completely, but it does go up to 28 megahertz, so all the major bands are catered for. There is a gap in coverage between 10 and 11.7, I think, which is associated with the first IF of 10.7 megahertz, typical of other Sony sets of the era. So you can see we have separate volume and tone controls. We have a one-step attenuator, which is effective on shortwave and medium wave, and a BFO that can be switched in, although you'll need quite a bit of manual dexterity to actually resolve an SSB signal effectively on a set like this. They're really designed for listening rather than serious DXing. Over here we have the counter and also a tuning meter. Not much else to it really. At the side, I've got batteries falling out here everywhere. At the side we have a 9 volt DC input, provision for headphones, and also a tape out jack. And obviously the performance of the set is improved by using the external antenna and earth connections that are shown as screw connectors there. Obviously the set has provision for a carry strap as well, which I don't happen to have for this particular example. So this is a double conversion super heterodyne design electronically, but there's only a single bandwidth, which is quite broad at 9 kilohertz. So again, that talks to the overall intent of the set, which was for casual listening predominantly. We have quite a decent rod antenna, which is mainly for the FM and shortwave ranges, and the ferrite rod, of course, built in for medium wave. So when this set was shipped, it was without the FM band working, and I knew that when I bought it and paid accordingly. But as it turned out, it wasn't a difficult issue to resolve. So I've already taken the screws out just to make it a bit quicker to access inside. And there you can see the main board, all discrete components, quite easy to service, I would imagine, and there are service manuals around on the web that can be used for that purpose. So the problem with FM was this assembly here, which is the band change switching mechanism. Most of it plastic, I have to say, looks a bit cheap, and the band change switch manipulates that assembly, and when it gets over fully clockwise, it activates this fulcrum here, which in turn pressurizes this PCB mounted switch, and that brings in the FM circuitry as opposed to the medium wave and HF. So a little bit flimsy, and all the problem was this screw here had loosened, and this little rack on top was just not far enough to the left to engage the switching properly. So just a few minutes to resolve, and the set is now working on all bands, which is very nice. You can see up here the mechanism associated with the analog tuning display, just a nylon cord and pulley arrangement that you would expect to see from a set of this era. So quite neat inside. I'll just stick it back together in a fashion at least. We might stick some batteries in. It takes 6 D cells, and I would imagine that the counter would quickly chew them up, which is why ideally you'd want to run it from mains while at home. Cover back on and see if we can get it to spring to life. So that's on the FM band.
Is it slow? Or is it rock and roll? Yeah. What kind of day do you want to bring to me?
You can switch in the backlighting there, which you won't be able to see due to the amount of daylight, but makes it easier at night. Quite good audio. The speaker is 10 centimetres and a little bit more than 1 watt of output. So quite pleasant to listen to. Maybe over to medium wave. Not too much on shortwave this time of day.
We all know what happened in the past in cycling. Yeah, but it happened every sport. It's just that cycling was more exposed.
You're talking about it though in past tense. Do you think it's not
It's a local medium wave station
No, well, cycling back
with their
back
sporting
in the early
coverage.
days, and a lot of sports, cycling probably 70%.
Quite pleasant. So there you have it. A receiver from the early 80s. It's becoming quite collectible. You don't see too many of them around on the used market. People tend to hang on to them, and in good condition they're even scarcer, and you pay accordingly. This one's got a little bit of scuffing, but I'm still quite happy with it overall, and we'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it, I'm sure.